Hi there, thanks for coming back to the channel. My name is Mike Pitt. I make videos about business and crypto so you can grow your business, increase your profits and increase your portfolio. The title for today's video is Banking Crisis. Is Bitcoin now a safe haven? Before I get into the content of the video, I'm going to put my socials on screen here. So if you're active on any of those platforms, follow me there, send me a message and I'll respond in the usual fashion. Okay, is Bitcoin a safe haven? Let's just briefly touch on the banking crisis. This is a crypto and business channel, not a sort of banking channel, but it won't have escaped your attention that in the last week or so, two significant US banks, so the first one being Silicon Valley Bank, this bank, and also Signature Bank, this bank, have been wound up and have failed and have gone into sort of liquidation. And the reason for that, there are a number of reasons, but the key reasons are that there has been run on the banks. A run on the bank is when more account holders want to withdraw their funds and the amount that they want to withdraw is far in excess of the amount held by the banks. This is based on the way that banks operate. Banks operate on a process of fractional reserve banking, which means they only keep a small amount of their money deposited in their bank as reserves. So like let's say 10%, 15% as cash reserves. The rest of the money is then loaned out to various speculative ventures in the hopes of creating a more profitable return. That is how the banking industry works and has always been the case. And the problem that both of those banks have faced is that they have not had the reserves, and then they've had to draw on equities that they've had or bonds that they've had, and they've had to sell those bonds and realize notional losses. So if the increased rates of interest in the US, for example, interest rates have been pushed up by the Federal Reserve. Jerome Powell at the Federal Reserve pushed up interest rates, which has meant that when these banks have had to cash in their bonds, they've not been able to leave them to maturity and they've ended up losing money. And because of this, there's been obviously two banks have gone into liquidation, but two banks have failed. Whenever banks fail, obviously it sends shockwaves through the economy and people wonder, well, can we trust banks based on this, fractional reserve lending process that they all use? Can we trust banks? If you've watched this channel for a number of weeks, months, years, you'll know that I don't have a lot of confidence in banks, and I say that you should try and take ownership of your own assets. Use banks. Obviously banks are a necessary evil, so you have to pay your bills, so use a bank to do that, but your savings are that's money that you can potentially invest in a number of ventures, whether that's stocks, bonds or cryptocurrencies. Obviously on this channel I focus on crypto particularly, and Bitcoin specifically. More focus is placed on Bitcoin. So what happened during the week? What happened to Bitcoin during the week that two major US banks failed? And I'll tell you, on the 13th of March, so the banks entered some difficulties. By Monday the 13th, Bitcoin was on $22,000, and by Friday 17th of March, which is today, Bitcoin had risen to $26,000. So the major sort of economic changes or impacts on society from a US perspective was the failure of these two banks. Obviously one of these banks was one of the largest banks in the US and had been much lauded for its dynamism and progress. So it's quite ironic that that's one of the banks that have gone into liquidation, and been some deals to make sure that account holders' deposits and funds have been secured with some government intervention there. Okay, Bitcoin went up. So why did Bitcoin went up? Yes, we can also mention that inflation in the US was brought down to 6%, but that was in line with expectations. So that's not any sort of shocking news. It's definitely the impact of the banks and the banks failing that have caused people to think, well, if the banks and the global financial structure is under stress and not necessarily working that well, where do we go? And traditionally and historically, people have return to gold, but they're also turning to Bitcoin. And I say Bitcoin as opposed to just crypto. So lots of over, I think, 23,000 crypto projects. Not all of them are as robust and well known and have such strong tokenomics as Bitcoin. So Bitcoin is not the same as all the altcoins. The altcoins have a different level of merit based on their particular specifics and variables from the project. And I've done lots of videos about particular projects, but let's focus on Bitcoin. People are seeing Bitcoin, and we're still obviously in the bear market, and we're approaching next year. We'll see the return of the bull market around March time, which is the time of the Bitcoin halving. And I've mentioned that in other videos. So Bitcoin going up by $4,000 in the space of a few days means that there is some movement into Bitcoin, and that has to be a response of the failure of the banks. So is Bitcoin a safe haven? To answer my own question, I believe it has become a safe haven, and I believe that a lot of people are seeing the robust nature of Bitcoin and using it as a speculative asset which they feel will accumulate and be a safe haven for them. Let's also bear in mind that Bitcoin, it gives you not the opportunity, should the markets play out in the right way, gives you the opportunity to hedge yourself against inflation. Inflation in the US, as I say, is now 6%. In the UK, where I'm based, it's still 10%. So there's been definitely some more demand for Bitcoin, and that's pulled the price up. So once again, I'm putting your attention, your focus on Bitcoin. I believe that you should be investing in it during this time, but you must do your own research and then make your own decision. Thanks for watching this short video all the way through. If you've liked this video, please give me a like. Click on one of the two thumbnails to watch another video from me. I look forward to speaking to you next time. Until then, peace.